everybody, this is Catherine St-Pierre at Physikinaction. Today we're going to make a key lime pie. So what you're going to need, we're going to use a crust that's very similar to the one that we use for a chocolate pie. So if you're not quite familiar with the chocolate pie, you can go look at that. That's really awesome. But this one is a little bit different because it requires that we use 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. Okay, so we're going to be using that, or butter. So we're going to need a cup of coconut, shredded coconut. We're going to need half a cup of macadamias and half a cup of cashews. We're going to need 6 dates. We're going to need a dash of salt. We're going to need some cayenne. So that's going to be for our crust, and we'll be making this now. So we're going to start with 6 dates. We're going to put those in the processor. The rest of the ingredients are already, the coconut's already shredded, and we've already had some macadamia and cashews already shredded, so we're just going to include this into here until everything blends out smoothly to make a crust. When it gets close to the consistency that's starting to stick together, what we're going to do is we're going to add the rest of the ingredients. Now we're going to put a dash of cayenne pepper. This gives it just a little bit of zing, and don't put much because you'll know it right away. That should be plenty. You're going to use just a little bit of salt, and this will just give it a bit of that tasting like the flour and the butter that you would normally use. And we're going to use, spatula, about a tablespoon of coconut butter, okay? And let's give this more. Now you see it's starting to stick a little, so we're just going to check it to see how sticky it is. It can still be a little bit more. When it starts to fall apart, it's pretty close. Now because the macadamias that we use and the cashews that we used were raw, we were using raw nuts, it's probably going to start sticking a little bit when it becomes more like a peanut butter texture. And I don't want it to get that far along, that's why we use the coconut butter. This looks about right, so what you're going to do is you're going to take this mixture and you're going to put it in a pie crust. We're using one that's already cooled. This is going to sit in the refrigerator or freezer, depending how quick you want to have it made, until we make our actual pie filling. So we're going to do this right now. Okay, so we're going to dump this in. This is a quite big pie. It's not a small one, so if you have a really small crust, you may not, pie plate, you might not want to use this much. Play with it, see, you might want to make some small ones this down the side, make it a little small tart, so you can have it on your own. You're going to press this and make it into the pie shape, pie crust shape. You can use your hands, and that's what I'm going to do. Just make sure your hands are clean. I'm going to set this in the fridge or the freezer. We're going to let it sit for half an hour. Now that your crust is in the freezer, what we're going to do is we're going to start using your lime. We're going to juice your lime. What you need is 3/4 of a cup. So depending on the size of your limes, you want to start squishing these out. You're going to keep probably 1 or 2 of them for decoration at the end, so depends on how much juice you get out of this. So let's start juicing these up. Now the can of coconut milk is not to actually use the milk. You're going to use the part that comes up at the top of the can. And so we're going to actually just blend that in with what we had of our coconut oil. So we just pick up the thickness on the top. And the rest of the coconut milk you can actually make a smoothie with. I guess that's about right. So we're going to use all of our mixture and we're going to start pouring in until it becomes smooth. The coconut cream, I guess we're going to use to just basically soften our filling a little bit so it's nice and smooth and frothy. So we're going to put our avocados in. Use it all. We're going to use our maple syrup. You're going to be using between 1/3 of a cup to 1/2 a cup. Use the real stuff if you can. It tastes a lot better. I'm not going to pour it all in just yet. We're just going to go with most of it. Just be able to play around with it after. We have 3/4 of a cup of lime juice. We're going to pour almost all of it and just use the rest to play with the consistency. Because if it's too liquidy, your pie is not going to work out. So we want to make sure it's firm enough. Okay, let's blend that up. I'm going to put the coconut cream in here. I'm going to probably not use it all. Use what we can of the chunkier stuff. Try that. Now it's getting really thick because the coconut cream is actually thickening up. I'm going to just give it a test run. That's zippy. I might not actually use all that lime, but we're definitely going to use the rest of the syrup. I might actually just drink the bottom. Don't do that, it's really bad. And a little bit more of this, just so that it gets that fluffiness. This is what you're gonna get. Nice and green. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this in our pie crust. And we're gonna put it in the freezer for it to sit. You can actually put it in the fridge for an hour and let it sit. We're gonna put it in the freezer so that you can actually see what it's gonna look like done product. Okay, so here we go. Let's pour this puppy in there. Try to keep it in the center so that you don't make a mess. You can always spread it. If you go too close to your edges, you're gonna get the crust all icky. Is that a good word, icky? We're going to put that in the fridge and let it sit for a little bit. Okay, so we had our pie in the fridge for an hour, and what we decided to do is we're going to have our little limes that were left over put for decoration on our pie. So we used a little bit of maple syrup and the rest of the juice that we had from the limes to kind of candy them, so at least they'll taste good if you happen to choose to eat them. So this is what it looks like, and we're going to put those in our pie. Take your pie, and you're just going to lay them on top. Now we're gonna spice it up a little. We're just gonna put a little zest on the top. So we used one that we've juiced up. You really just want to rub the top